Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome out to the training webinar tonight. I'm Shade Frey. I've got Steven Swenson here. We're prepared to do the training here. I'm actually going to switch it over right now so that Steve can take control of this right now. But it is recording, so if anybody's ever unable to attend one of these live, you can always watch the recording of it later.
Yeah, definitely. And, I'm excited tonight. We're going to be talking about internet auctions. And it's going to go along a little bit about what we're going to be doing with. Did that switch that over to me, Shade?
Yeah,
Did you see?
yeah, yep. It's switched over. We
Okay.
can see your screen.
Okay. Perfect. Alrighty. So now, tonight we're going to talk about online auctions and internet auctions, and really how do you take advantage of those? With tax lien and deed investing, there's so much that's moving towards online auctions, and so knowing exactly the newest online auctions, kind of being on the edge of the online, the edge of all of the internet auctions that are coming out, and knowing exactly what's going to take place is really going to help you as a tax sale investor. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And it kind of goes in par with what we're going to be doing at our internet buying tour. Now we have a tentative date of December 9th, 10th, and 11th. We've had a lot of students and members and past clients contact us, and they'd like to be able to do some type of coaching or some type of seminar, and they've asked about the 3-day. And so we went ahead and set this tentative date. It's going to be in Las Vegas. And essentially, Shay can talk to you a little bit more about it. But this is something that's completely new, and we're pretty excited about it.
Yeah, it should be something that's unique to the industry. We don't know of anybody else that's ever done anything quite like this before. And what we mean by that is it is a type of internet buying tour. With the way that the market has changed over the last 10 years, you no longer have to be on location somewhere at an auction in order to make purchases. And ultimately, I think what people really want is the added help, to have somebody there that can kind of walk them through the process, somebody that can make sure that what they're picking out, looks good. I think they just want more one-on-one help and attention, and that's really what this buying tour is all about. We're going to have 3 days to work with a group of like probably maybe 5 to 10 5 to 10 people. So it'll be very intimate. It'll be a great opportunity to work and spend a lot of time with people, and ultimately it's going to be a great chance to do a lot of investing, to do a lot of buying. We're going to have a lot of things ready there for people, so that whatever your objective is, whether you're looking at buying secondary liens, or whether you're looking at trying to buy deeds, or other types of liens, whatever it is, we're going to have a lot of those investments ready for you. We'll have gone through a lot of that, so yeah, we're excited. Plus, it's Las Vegas. That's always a fun place, I think, to visit. So it'll be fun to get to know everybody. To be able to work there with them in person rather than just over the computer or over the telephone. This should be great.
Yeah, definitely. And as far as this buying tour, I mean, we're going to have the chance to be able to work one-on-one with you guys. We're going to work together as a group, and this isn't just a training. What makes this so unique is you're going to have the chance to participate in online auctions, prepare for online auctions. You're going to have the chance to purchase secondary or over-the-counter tax liens, and so, we really think this is going to be a great event. In fact, this is a really going to be something that we want to build our company on, essentially having this internet buying tour, maybe even be able to do it monthly, because these groups are going to be small. And this is something that you could attend, the first time, and maybe attend 6 months later, and still you're going to learn a ton. And now as far as this, as Shade mentioned, it's going to take place over 3 days. Now we're also going to have team coaching that's going to be involved with this as well. So we're going to have 2 sessions before, probably starting maybe about 7 to 10 days before, and we'll have 2 before the event to help get you ready. And then we're going to have 4 team training sessions after the event. So we really want to, really create a group vibe here as well, and have group success, and have, friends and relationships that are able to be cultivated during this training. So as far as the boot camp, it's $19.95, and that's going to include a guest. Now, as far as how you can go ahead and reserve your spot, you can do that by doing a $200 deposit. We have that right on the website underneath the 3-day. Or if you sign up by November 25th, then you can get an early discount, and that's going to be $18.50. And so that's going to include you and a guest. Now, we've had a couple of people email us and say, I have me and my wife, but I'd like to have my sons attend as well. I have 2 sons. If you have any of those kind of situations, just go ahead and let us know. We can look at any type of group discount. I mean, really, we want to make this affordable. If we were trying to do a retail cost on this, I'm sure it would be over $6,000. In fact, one of my brothers works for one of the major training seminar companies, and it's unbelievable. They have training packages that are $60,000, $50,000, $60,000 programs. And so we think at this cost, it's going to be fair. It's something that's you're going to learn a ton at, and we really want to just make it into a pretty incredible event.
Yeah, I think it really goes right along with what is so important to us, and that is that the people that are investing, the members of the training, that they aren't spending all their money on the training, and they're actually able to invest and make money with the investments. We want that's ultimately what is important to us. That's what we want. And yeah, at this price point, we think it's worth it for people to go and to be able to have so much of their investing done, but also get that one-on-one attention, so they're not trying to do it themselves. So should be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to it here. It's about 3.5 weeks away from now.
Absolutely. So, if you have any questions, go ahead and let us know. We'll put a contact sign on that page as well. But if you have any questions, let us know. But we really want to see you guys out there, as many that can attend. Would love to have you. Now, as far as your resources, just to kind of remind you, of course, we have the website. That's where we have the list, all of the training, the recordings, everything. Also, weekly, we have our webinars. And if you have any questions, we really want to start using the support forum more. That way we can just record, different questions that you guys have, and we can just really kind of create a database, almost like a dictionary of tax sale investing. You can go there and find any of the answers that you need. Now, as far as tonight's topic, we're going to be talking about online auctions. So we're going to talk about who are the big players in the game. We're going to talk about how to get involved with online auctions. What do you have to do with online auctions? And so, as far as online auctions, it's something that's really changed. I mean, when we in Shade first got started, there wasn't any online auctions. By the time we started writing our first programs around 2005, 2006, into 2007, there started to kind of come up a couple of online auctions here or there. But now, I mean, there's entire states where maybe 50% of the state, and some areas where almost every county in this state has an online auction. So it's something that's changed, over the years quite a bit, and it's something that's going to continue. It's only going to grow. So as far as the online auctions, if you want to know any information on online auctions, all you need to do is go to Tax Sale Support underneath the online auctions. You can click on there. We have all of the upcoming auctions. We have all the information about online auctions there. So as far as online auctions, there's different counties that are using software and websites. There's different companies that have created these software and these websites that these counties can use. And it really ends up saving 2 things for the county, and this is the reason counties are doing it. First of all, it saves them time. It saves them time in the amount of work and people needed to conduct the auction and in preparation for the auction. It also saves money as well. And it also allows them to have more competition. So, so many different counties are really moving to online auctions. Now, as far as online auctions, most of these online auctions are going to have information that helps us understand how to use the auction. That's the great thing about these. I mean, they understand that most people may have never used auctions before. They may have been, real estate investors that primarily went down to the county courthouse, and they understand how to do it there. So maybe an online auction is something new for them. So most of these county websites have pretty good tutorials, question and answer sections, instructions, to take you through the process of not only signing up but also participating in the auction. Many of them even have practice auctions that allow you to practice before you even start or before the auction actually even begins, so you can get familiar with how their systems run and how the auction system works. Now, as far as how to do online investing, we really break it down into 4 simple steps, and we're going to go through and talk about each one of them quickly. The first step is registration. Shay, do you mind talking about registration and kind of what's required?
Sure. With any county that you're going to invest in, they're going to ask you to register. So obviously they know who their bidders are. Whether you're doing it in person or online, you would still need to register, and that's because in order for them to sell you liens, they need to have certain bits of information for reporting purposes. So if you take a look at any of the online auction sites, they will typically have instructions that are pretty simple for registering for the auction. It can usually be done within a few minutes. They're going to require typically either a social security number or a tax ID number. That's primarily for the reporting purposes when it comes to the profits. So they need some way to report the profits, and that's where how you're investing will come into play, whether you're investing just under your own name or whether you have started some kind of business entity that you plan to use to purchase all of your investments through. But that's usually the first step. And in registration, they'll also likely have you put down some type of deposit, and that will vary from place to place. The deposit amount may be a flat amount that they're asking for, or it may be a percentage of the amount that you intend to spend. I think that they're getting to a point now where I think the deposits that they ask for are more reasonable. I think the main thing they're trying to make sure of there is that the people that are bidding are serious about it, that they're actually going to buy. So they want to make you jump through a few hoops, to make sure that, before they let you bid on properties, that you have, every intention of buying them. So, yeah, that's usually the first step, to getting set up there with the county, is getting registered and set up, with them, and that will basically give you everything you need to get a bidder number, so that you have the ability to place bids at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that deposit, you're going to get that money back. So it's not money in most cases, at least that we've ever seen, you're not going to lose that money. Essentially, they'll just go ahead and get that back to you. That just, just like Shade said, it kind of really separates the curious from the serious. So
yeah, and one thing that is kind of nice about counties as well is that because they're government entities, they're not groups that are going to thieve money from you. What's nice about, I guess, is that even when it comes to money for properties that they sell beyond what's owed in taxes, they make sure always gets back to the individual. Yeah, they'll be sure to give it back to you. If you don't spend it, they'll give it back to you. But what's nice with some of the online auction companies is that they're doing more than one sale. Oftentimes, you can get some kind of a deposit placed with them.
yeah, absolutely. So that's really going to be your first step. The second step is really property research, and this is kind of really a webinar in itself. But as far as property research, you're going to do the same thing you would as any other type of tax sale. So if it's at live research, you're just going to go through that due diligence process. Now, most research can be done using online tools and resources. So using the county records, doing comparative market analysis, determining the value of the property. In bidding on property, the most important thing we can ever know is the value of the property. Because once we know the value of the property, we know what we can bid and still have good room for profit. So that's going to really be what we're researching. We'll also be, of course, checking for any red flags and going through that process as well. But for tax lien investing, really 99.9% of all research can be done online, just using basic free research. Just you going through the county records, checking out other properties, checking out the value, making a decision, and then purchasing tax liens. For tax deed properties, we always recommend for properties with structures, if you're buying a tax deed and it has a structure, we've always advised getting at least an on-site evaluation or getting a current photo of the property so that you can evaluate the condition. But as far as that property research, that's the second thing you're going to do. And then once you've done the property research, then essentially you're just going to bid online. Now, as far as bidding online, it's really going to be the same as any other type of auction. If you participated in something even like eBay, you'll at least understand the auction process. And most of these county auctions are going to be very similar. So you're essentially going to go through, become familiar with the auction system, understand how to set the bids, and most importantly, in making those bids, you're going to set your maximum bid on all the properties. So that may be a maximum as far as, or minimum as far as the lowest interest rate you're willing to accept on a tax lien if you're bidding that way, or for a tax deed property, how high are you willing to bid on the property. But either way, you're going to want to set those before you get involved so you don't become an emotional bidder. Shay, can you talk about emotional bidding and how we've seen that, kind of with different investors throughout our time is in tax sales?
Yeah, in fact, I think it's a factor with any kind of an auction. In fact, it's what the auction relies on for success, I think, is emotional bidding. It's primarily a risk, though, because when you do research on something like real estate, it's hard not to take some degree of possession of it, at least mentally. So it's important to come up with, bid, I guess, maximum bids or minimum, depending on the method that you're using, so that you don't lose perspective with investments. It's easy to, well, I don't know if anybody else ever lost perspective with bidding on things, something that you want, but if it's something that you really want, then it's very easy, to lose perspective on it and to pay more than you probably should. With investing like this, it's important to keep emotion out of it because, well, that's a good way to lose money. The idea here is not to go out there and to beat somebody for the property, not to win it out into auction, but to be able to be that person that steals that property, that barely had an opening bid, or that only had a few bids. Our goal is to pay the right price for a property rather than I guess to pay the right price to get the right property rather than paying too much for the wrong one. So it's okay to have properties go that you don't pick up or get. That if you keep in mind that that's kind of part of the system and what you're counting on, then I think it makes it a little bit easier. But due diligence, I think, is the best way to prevent, I guess, too much emotion when it comes to investing. Setting those limits beforehand will ensure that you're not foolish about the investments, because we've seen, yeah, if you ever have a chance to attend auctions, any of these auctions, especially any of these tax sale auctions, some of them are still conducted just locally and not online, and may not be online for years. But if you ever get the chance to attend, we would encourage you to attend some of these auctions, because you'll experience a lot of, I guess you'll get more from the experience than you realize. You'll see the different ways that people bid and what their motive seems to be. We've seen people that lost money because they got into bidding wars, on properties that they just hadn't done any research on. We've seen people. I guess we've seen lots of people get pretty emotional at auctions before. Maybe that's one of the advantages that the online auction has, is that maybe when you're not there in person, it's a little bit easier to keep yourself drawn back. But yeah, we've witnessed it. We've seen people lose money with emotional bidding, and so it's always been a risk that we've been sure to want to warn people about, because it sneaks up on you, and if you don't realize it, it can cost you a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've always recommended, letting properties go before overpaying for a property. When it comes to tax sale investing, we're doing this to make incredible profits. And so if there's not a chance to make incredible profits on it, it's better just to let it go and bid on the next property. And that's what's nice about online auctions, is you always have an opportunity to bid at the next sale. So once you've got done bidding, really the auction is going to end. Once the auction is ended, any tax liens or tax deeds you've been essentially won, or you won the bidding on, will be awarded. Usually they're going to have the total amount due within 24 hours. They may give more time frame than that. That's something you're going to want to know, and know exactly how you're going to need to transfer the funds after the auction as well. Now, once you've paid the county will go ahead and record that, and they'll go ahead and issue the tax lien or deed into your name. So once that tax lien or deed's been issued to your name, they're going to go ahead and send that out to you. If it's a deed, that'll be sent. If it's just an online certificate, then they'll send you an email or notification that the tax lien has been issued. So, you know, that's really kind of the online auction process in a quick 1 through 4 step process. Now, as far as the major players, there's a lot of different large auction companies, and these companies are kind of competing with one another for business, essentially. Some of these are competing in the same states, and we're going to go through and talk about each one of them so that you're familiar with the online auction companies. The first one is realauction.com. This is probably one of the biggest companies, or has the most counties under it. You know, Grant Street Group's pretty big as well, but these guys are pretty large. They offer both tax liens and tax deed auctions. So they have tax deed auctions in Florida. They have tax lien auctions in Arizona, you know, Colorado, Maryland, Florida, Nebraska, New Jersey, several other states. So as far as their auctions, you know, they have tax lien auctions, and each auction was going to have its own practice site. So these, you know, practice auctions are held daily. So if you plan on, or you want to participate in one of the Colorado auctions or a Florida auction or something, you could practice before the auction has taken place, and so that you're really familiar with how the system works. So once you bid, there's not going to be any mistakes made. In addition to purchasing tax liens through all those different avenues, they also have over-the-counter tax lien sales. Now, these over-the-counter tax lien sales, you can go directly to the county website, put in your information tonight, and you can actually purchase over-the-counter tax liens this evening. That's how you know, great these systems are. You can go through, you can research them, you can click on the links and pull up county records. It's really made it a lot easier to be able to purchase over-the-counter tax liens. Now, each auction is going to have its own website. So each county is going to have its own website that's dedicated to its online auctions. Over here on the left-hand side, you're going to see that they're going to have, you know, information that you can find out about the bidding rules. You can see all of the training information over to the left-hand side, the training dates, the site guided tour. To register, you're just going to click right there in the middle. It's going to pull up your information. As Shade mentioned before, you're going to put in your basic information. You're going to go ahead and register. Now, to register just on the auction website or for Real Auction or any of these websites, it's usually not going to take any deposit. You're not going to have to put any money down just to register. You're essentially going to have to put money down if you plan on participating in the sale. So from there, you know, that's where you put that additional deposit in. Also underneath there, they'll have underneath registration, you can click on preview items for sale and actually pull up the tax sale list. So this is what the tax sale list looks like, or it'll look very similar to this. You know, as far as the tax sale list, there's not going to be a ton of information when just looking at the list. I mean, really, we're just going to see if the face amount, so the amount of the tax lien, if it's available. Then we'll also have the parcel ID and the ADV number. So when we're looking at tax liens using the Real Auction website, we're essentially going to be looking at tax liens particularly by price. And then from there, we can quickly click on the parcel ID or the ADV number to be able to pull up additional information on the property, you know, to see what the assessed value is, to see if there's a property address, any of that additional information. So if we were to click on the parcel ID, it would directly pull us up to the property record. So in addition to tax lien sales, they also have tax deed sales. Now, what's nice about these Florida tax deed auctions is they're essentially held monthly. In fact, some counties will have several auctions in that month. So if you know, that gives you a chance that, you know, if you want to pick particular county. Say you said, okay, well, I want to do my investing in this particular county. Let's say it's Miami-Dade, and Miami-Dade has online auctions. Then that gives you the ability to create a power team there and continue investing in that area each month. So if a property goes above the amount that you want to invest into, then essentially you're willing to let that property go because you know you're going to have the opportunity to bid on it in the next month. So that's what really makes these online auctions pretty nice. It gives you the opportunity to bid on it straight from your computer. So as far as the online auctions, each county is going to have its own website. They'll have an auction calendar. You can go ahead and click on the date to pull up the auction information. So once you've clicked on the date to pull up the auction, it's going to pull up a page that looks like this. Now, from here, you're going to be able to see the opening bid amount. You can also see the property address. A lot of these auctions are also going to have the opening bid amount. So if we were to click on the parcel ID, it's going to go ahead and pull up the property records. So we can see that, you know, every property record, and if you've started looking at it through tax liens and deeds, I'm sure you've seen this through county records. Property records are going to be different, but it's going to give us the information we need, the address, the assessed value, the classification as far as, you know, what the property is labeled as a single-family home, is it commercial? We'll be able to see the acreage. All of that important information we're going to be able to pull up from the property records. From there, of course, we can continue to do due diligence to determine if it's a good property or good investment. But what this is nice, what the real auction is nice, is it gives us the ability to purchase Florida tax deeds online from different areas in the country, and we can specialize in one or two different counties. So you could focus on maybe a couple of counties within an area, set up a power team there to be able to essentially buy property throughout that area. Now, as far as getting started, if you start going through and looking at an auction, it just takes a few minutes. You can go ahead and register, and then essentially you'll set your criteria and start going through the online auction. So as far as registration, just as the contact information, basic information, you'll go ahead and put that information in. Pretty simple, and register for the auction. The next one is bidforassets.com. Now, Shay, do you mind talking about Bid for Assets for a little bit, and just kind of let the people know exactly what they're used for, I guess?
Yeah, sure. You can use, I guess, a lot of these companies that do online auctions, they offer the online auction for more than just the county. In other words, it's almost like they started off their website, their company doing online auctions, and then they realized that they could start to hold those for the counties as well, and so they started to incorporate them. And so what you'll find is that between some of these different companies, they tend to share a different part of the market. You know, so you know, for instance, Bid for Assets, we tend to find more on the West Coast. You know, I would say, you know, you see different counties within California. Where else do we see there? Washington.
Yeah, Washington. We've seen some Idaho and Oregon in the past, and Michigan sometimes, but they primarily do a ton of Washington and California.
Yeah.
All of California.
Yeah, and what's nice about Bid for Assets is it's a unique site in that it's not like some of the other sites that operate, but it is a fairly simple site to use. It is probably easier than a lot of the other sites out there, and it may, you know, it also has a lot of opportunity there. You'll see when you go to check out the county tax sales with Bid for Assets, they'll tell you, you know, you can see about what you have coming up here over the next few months. So it's a good place to do research on pretty much, I think everything on Bid for Assets are just tax deeds. Is that right? I don't think they have any tax liens available on this site.
Yeah, I mean, primarily, you know, Bid for Assets is almost kind of like your eBay, you know, for the county government. So primarily, they just do real estate and tax deeds, no liens.
Yeah, so everything you're looking at there are, basically properties that you can purchase, outright. If you're looking for tax liens, there are some different online auction companies that kind of specialize in it. But for bid for assets, we're looking at just property acquisition, more towards those western states. So if you're interested in maybe picking up property. California's, I think, well, California offers some real advantages over some other places. Primarily, one of them would be that just strong property values. California's had pretty strong property values, and stronger than most other parts of the country. I would say. And so, bid for assets has always been an interesting place because they almost always have sales, that are taking place, that are going on. They always have something that's happening there in those states.
Yeah, definitely. And during this 3 day, I don't mean to kind of take it back to that, but during this 3 day, we're going to go through and there'll probably be students or investors there that are bidding on all of these different websites, and we'll go through and explain exactly how to use them and go through that process so that really once you're done with that 3 days, you understand exactly how to bid on these online auctions. That's one thing we get questions a lot is I just don't, I'm afraid to kind of go through the process, and so we wanted to give students an opportunity to kind of together go through this process and understand it while bidding on different properties at the auction. So once you get to the bid for assets page, essentially you can just click on the left hand side. You'll see where it says county tax sales, and you'll just go ahead and click on that, and that's going to go ahead and take you to the county auction tax sale page. So once you've clicked on that, there's essentially the tax sale page, and there's also an auction calendar over here to the right hand side. So you can see the different auctions that are taking place. You can click on any of these auctions to pull up the individual auction information. So if we were to pull up this auction information, we can see that this auction was for Monterey County. As we continue to scroll down the page, we'll have additional information on the property. Now, one thing that's nice about Bid for Assets is they have the online files available, but they also have the Excel and PDF file. Now, me and Shade both like to use the Excel file to look up these properties, especially using Bid for Assets, because when you click on the Excel file, they provide additional information, so you can kind of get an idea of which properties have structures, what's the value, but they also have a link that you can click on there that'll take you to the online page on Bid for Assets for that property. And so we kind of like to take that list, and if you've been part of our trainings, we've talked about the quick glance method and kind of narrowing down that list and narrowing down that Excel list of the properties that we're most interested in. You can try going through these individually, but if the property has a ton of properties in it, or if the auction has let's say they have over 100 properties, these online files can take a while going through and looking at each individual one, because the only information they're going to give you with the online file is just the parcel number. So you'll just be looking them up individually, going through to find those properties. Sometimes they'll have a photo. It'll depend on the individual auction. So here's an example of the online files. You can see that there's a photo there. You can see the APN number, essentially the parcel number, and you can click on any of these individuals to pull it up and pull up the properties and see what information. So once you click on one of the links, it's going to pull up the basic information on the property. We'll see the property address. We can see the zip code. We can click on sometimes to get a parcel image and a parcel map. We can see the assessed value, and this is really what we're going to be looking at as we're glancing through and looking at these properties. We're only going to be we really only have just basic information to determine if it's a property that we want to research more. We have the ability to see if the property has an address. So, can we drive by the property? Can we get a Google image or a street view of the property? And also the assessed value and the bid amount. Those three things are what's going to determine if we're going to research the property more. And so we can see this property has an improvement value of $89,000, land value of $26,000, so it has some value to it. It's worth over $100,000. We can also see that it's residential. If it had a parcel image, we'd go ahead and click on that, and then from there we could continue doing due diligence more if we were interested in it. But this physical address, that's going to be important, because that's going to be able to help us determine if we can find a Zillow value on it, or e-appraisal or something like that. And then from there we can do comparables if we actually want to bid on the property and do a comparative market analysis. So essentially, we're going to be able to get the basic information off of bid for assets, and then from there we do continual due diligence. And as far as what information they have, it's really going to depend on the individual county, what information they provide. But we're at least going to get the basic information, the assessed value, the opening bid amount, the street address, and from there we can go to the county website and do additional due diligence or do comparative market analysis or anything like that. Another really big company is Grant Street Group. They have both tax liens and tax deeds as well. So they don't have as many tax deeds as Real Auction does, but they do have some tax. They do have tax deeds in one county or two counties in Florida, and then a county or two in California as well. So they do have some deed auctions. They also have a lot of tax lien auctions. They essentially do tax lien sales in Florida, Arizona, and Maryland. And then they also do deed sales in California and Florida, as I mentioned. So like realauction.com, each website or each county is going to have its own website with much of the same information or kind of a lot of the same processes as realauction.com, meaning that they're going to have, question and answers. They'll have site guided tours and information to take you through and understand how to be able to use the website. As far as registration, it takes it very simple. You don't need to do any deposits or anything like that to register. Also, once you've registered for one of these sites, you can use that same username and password to essentially log on and look at other auctions as well. If you're going to participate in that auction, then you'll register for the sale. But you'll be able to use that same username and password. Now, one thing that's nice about Grant Street Group or these auction systems that they use is that you have the ability to do detailed searches on it. You can search by tax lien amount, and it gives you the ability to search different tax liens based on the amount of the bids. So as you can see here, you can search by unpaid previous years. You can search by unpaid this year, by certificate amount, by face amount, by address, any of that information, and you can narrow down the searches. And so that makes it a little bit nice in searching tax liens, especially if you have a particular amount that you plan on investing in.
It's also handy if let's say you're looking for like first year liens. If you're looking for first year liens, that would be a good way to do it. If you're looking for, using a system like Grant Street Group makes it easier to see what the total roll-up is on a tax lien, because it enables you to see if there are other liens, that exist there. So there's some real advantages, I think, to online systems like these because in the past that information was so difficult to obtain, and now it's just right there at your fingertips.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Grant Street Group does have a lot of over-the-counter tax liens you can buy using their system as well. So if you go to the website underneath the online auction tabs, you'll be able to see the Real Auction websites and the Grant Street Group websites, and there'll be over-the-counter sales there as well, where you can go through and say, okay, I want to look at the tax liens between 500 to 1,000, and you can actually print up the tax lien or put it on an Excel file so that you can go through and look at all the information. So there's a lot of different techniques and tools that you can use once you've kind of got started using the system. All of these systems are going to take a little bit of practice. They're going to take a little bit, time going through it and just kind of playing with it a little bit so that you understand exactly how that they work. But once you do, it's going to be something that you can go back to and use again and again and again in the future. So here's an example of the list. Again, like realauction.com, we don't have a ton of information. So here on the left-hand side, we look for certain certificates between a certain price range. So we have those certificates listed. Now, once you click on any one of these parcel numbers, it's going to pull up a little page that looks like this, where you're going to have the batch number, the account number, the face amount, so that's the tax lien amount. You'll also have the assessor information or the assessor tab. when you click on the Assessor tab, that's going to pull up the property records for you. And then over here, you'll have the aerial map as well, and some information down here as well. Also, underneath the tax information, like Shade said, you can see if there's any unpaid previous years. So that's going to be good to know. If there's additional roll-up on that tax lien, we'll be able to see if there's unpaid previous years here, or if there's any tax liens that haven't been purchased before. We'll be able to see that information here. But if we wanted to get the assessor information, we could essentially click right there underneath the assessor, and it's going to pull up the assessor information. And so it pulls up this page right here. And what's nice about this page is you can look up underneath the owner information, the investor information. So if there's tax liens that have been purchased underneath this investor information, you'll be able to see what tax liens have been purchased by what years. So if there is additional tax liens, maybe you're purchasing a property that already has 2 tax liens, you'll be able to see, okay, there's two other tax liens on the property. So if the property owner does foreclose on it, I'm probably going to get paid back. This is a pretty safe tax lien of getting my money back, or however it is you could look at it. Maybe the roll-up's extreme, so you'd avoid it. But you're going to be able to see that information here, which is nice to have it all together. Also, the tax information, the assessment information, it'll just show us, what essentially the assessor has, and then the owner information. So underneath the assessor information, we're going to get all that basic information we need: the site address, the owner's name, the improvement value. The improvement value and the full cash value, the land value, we're going to be able to say, okay, this property here is worth $100,000. Also, we can see down here the property use. It's an office building, commercial property. It tells us more about the properties as we start doing our due diligence on it. But essentially from here, we can get the information we need to really research the property more and see if it's going to be a good investment. Now, another company that's kind of changed names. It used to be called SRI Auctions, and they had a different website, and they've changed it recently to Zeus. And they offer tax lien and deed auctions as well. SRI Auctions primarily started as a company that did Indiana tax sales, and it kind of grew out from there. And this is really kind of their online auction branch, or their online auction company. Now, once you log in, it's going to take the same process. It doesn't cost any money. And really, if you're going to be an online investor, you really ought to go on tonight, or as soon as you can, go through and register for each one of these auction websites, so that you're aware of the upcoming auctions, any notifications, any information. You'll be able to get an email about it and know more about it. So essentially here we can go ahead and see the auction. They have them in Iowa, Louisiana, Florida, Indiana, Colorado. We can also see the auction watch list. If you have any properties you're watching, we can click on the auction to see what upcoming auctions are coming up. So they're taking some of the Florida auctions as well. Now, in addition to them, there's also Tax Sale Portal, or FloridaTaxSales.com. They have a number of counties as well that have online auctions, and they have individual websites, a little bit like Real Auction and Grant Street Group, where essentially you'll go ahead and bid on that auction website. So these guys have anywhere between 7 to 10 counties, and then Florida, Bid for Assets and Grant Street Group and Real Auction will have the majority of the others. But Florida Tax Sales is still a company we want you to be aware of, because there may be a couple of counties in there that you plan on investing in a tax lien auction, but they're not done through Real Auction or Grant Street Group. So we want you to know about all of the big companies that are doing Florida tax sales, or really any tax sales. So those are primarily the biggest companies. There's also a company called Civic Source, which does tax sales as well. What they primarily do sales in is in Louisiana. So that's primarily what they offer as far as their tax sales. But of course, we want you to be aware of them as well. Also, there's a couple of companies that offer New York online auctions. We've looked at some of those in the past in some of our trainings, where we go through and look at some of the upcoming tax sales. And so these are two companies that are doing a New York tax deed auctions. From what I understand, or from what I've seen over the last month or so, though, it looks like that HarOffLiveBids.com, this one here on the right, is essentially moving completely over to New York auctions. I think they're actually owned by the same company. They just kind of had two different websites where they auction. I don't know why, but it looks like for their same ownership and looking, so it's probably going to be just New York auctions, but I'm not positive of that. They may still be doing some on this other. But if there is any other upcoming auctions, we're going to make sure that we know about them, and we're going to let you know on the website. The last one is taxsale.info. This is essentially for the Michigan tax sales. The Michigan auctions are pretty much over for the year, but if you're interested in the Michigan tax sales at all, this is the primary company that offers Michigan tax sales online. So as far as online auctions, there's always new counties that are being added. There's new cities, as far as even New Jersey. Many of them are done on a city level, so there's new cities and counties that are being added. And whenever there's an online auction, we're constantly researching and trying to find any online auctions or any new companies or anything that we can find about them. So if there's a new county that's going to be moving to an online auction, we're going to know about it, and we're going to make sure that that information is available to you on the website. And online auctions really are the future of tax sale investing. It's how we are. It's really the way that it's moving. I'm sure that there's still always going to be live auctions, but it seems like more and more counties are moving to this online system. And us as investors that understand this and that are really on the forefront of it now, we're the ones that are going to be able to take advantage of it as these counties move to online auctions. Especially as a county who maybe does their first sale or their second sale or something like that, they may be great opportunities to bid in those counties that are just moving over to an online auction for the first time.
I think it's also important for people to realize that timing-wise, this is the best time really to get involved in to be doing this, because counties are in the process of making it easier, and it is getting easier, but it's still relatively unknown. It's still not something that most people are familiar with or understand, how to do. So I think getting involved now, you really are ahead of the curve. The reality is, even if you had wanted to invest in tax liens heavily, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, just the distance and travel required in order to do that in most counties would have probably prevented you from doing as much as you wanted to. But those barriers are basically being removed out of the way now for investors, and so it's a good time to get involved. It really is. In a way, it's kind of like floodgates opening with all the opportunities that are within some of these counties, because in a way they've been landlocked. For so long they've been conducting these tax sales for many years, and without offering them online. And when they are able to suddenly offer them online, it's like opening up a whole new area for you as an investor. So that kind of thing's happening a lot. It's a good time to get involved. Definitely ahead of the curve on this investment versus others where you realize you're behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a great point. As far as online auctions, what we wanted to do is we just wanted to kind of give you guys a good explanation of how the auctions work, some of the different auction types, the different auction companies, so that you guys have the idea of the different players that are doing it, the different companies that are offering it, the different states that are offering it. And what we want to do is go online and look at a couple of upcoming auctions as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this, and we're going to go ahead and pull up some online auctions. We're going to start looking at some. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go here to the online auction tab, and we can see that there's online tax lien auctions, online tax deed auctions. Occasionally there'll be some redemption deeds if we're looking at the Louisiana sales when they come up, but primarily here's the two auction sites that we'll use mostly. So we can see here are some upcoming California auctions. These California auctions are going to be using bidforassets.com. So all of these are going to be using Bid for Assets. Now you can see below that, San Bernardino County, they use Grant Street Group. So we're going to let you essentially know which companies are being held. You can see that these are held by Bid for Assets, Grant Street Group. Here's Florida auctions. All of these Florida auctions, most of them except for one or two, are going to be done through realauction.com. And you can see some of the auctions. Here's New York auctions coming up, and here's Washington auctions as well. So as far as the auctions we can see, we have a couple of different companies here that could represent some of the upcoming auctions that are going to be taking place. Now, Shade, I remember you looked, was it last week you were looking at a county in Washington? I'm trying to remember what
Yeah,
county it was.
yeah, it was. In fact, let's see here. The county that I was looking at in Washington, their sale was on Bid for Assets, and it was taking place here at the time. I think it was the sale itself was actually happening right about then. Let me just look and see here so I can remember it. It was Benton.
Yeah.
It was Benton. I think it was Benton, Washington that I was looking at.
Okay, so here we're looking right now, and so it does look like it. Let me see when it went through, from November 14th to November 15th. So it had actually taken place, but let's get an idea of the list anyway. So as we mentioned, what sometimes we like to do is go ahead and pull up that Excel file. Just so that we can get a better idea of the list. Let me go ahead and pull that out a little bit. So here's the list, and let's see if we can see what they sold for. So here we can see the minimum bid amount, and of course that is going to give us an idea of what we can get the property for. Also, we can see the property address, and why that's important is we're going to have the ability to look that property up. This property doesn't have a property address, so this one would have to do some more research. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad investment. But as a new investor, you're usually going to want to stick with properties that have addresses. Even if it's a building lot or something like that, even if it's land, you're going to want to have an address property, especially if it's your first time investment. But we can also see the acreage here. So we can see the side, we can see the improvements, the land value, and then the total assessed value as well. We can also see any special assessments or zoning type. So you can see here in this list there have quite a bit of information. So if you're an investor, you can, let's say that you have $20,000, then you can go through this list and eliminate properties that have a minimum bid above that, or that maybe go above 20,000 and kind of narrow down that list of properties that you're interested in. If you're only interested in properties that have an address, then you could you could go ahead and erase maybe this property here, or any of these other properties, to where you narrow down that list to a shorter amount of properties.
Another county that I had looked at also was in Pierce County. They are holding just a resale of some properties there. There's only about 10 of them, but they've got several of them there that are more than just lots. I guess you've got a mix there. You've got some properties there that don't have improvements, and you have some that do have improvements. But that's one that may not get a lot of attention that may be good to look at, because when you download the Excel file, you can get a pretty quick feel for exactly what is being offered there and whether you'd have any interest in it. And then from there you can see what is still available. Although I think most of the stuff that's here is still available, and that's partly because it's a resale. When counties are coming right up on the end of the foreclosure period there, when people are in the process, if they're going to lose the property, then you see a lot of properties redeem. But in a case like this, where you have a sale that's postponed for whatever reason, and the foreclosure period is passed, some of that goes away. So you don't have quite so many properties redeeming. So I don't think we'll see the same number of redemptions with this sale, that you see on a lot of others, because it's a reoffer on different properties that were already offered at a previous sale, meaning they'd already been foreclosed on. So that may not be a bad one.
Yeah, I'm definitely just looking at it now. Look at some of these properties that are coming up. And one thing that's nice is you can see some of the different tools that you have. here that could be available: images, the map view, bird's eye view, street view, Zillow information. So they've given you some tools right here just to determine if it's overall going to be a good investment. So here we can see the address. We can see that there's an address here on Kramer Road. We can click on the parcel map. We can see that there's no improvement value, but it does have a pretty good land value. So if we want to see a little bit more about this property, we can click here. And then also, one thing, this is something I always look for, is you can see that here is a title report. Now, why this is important is because it's the title report. It gives us additional information about the title that we're going to need. And many times counties are going to require the state requires the county to get a title report. So if you're looking at a property and you can't find the title report through the county records, it's worth it to give a call to the county and say, hey, I understand that sometimes they are required to do a title report. Could I see if there's a title report, or do you have a title report available for it? Because if they can get you the title report, that's going to give you a ton of information. So let's go ahead and click on it just to see. So you can see it was done by this company right here. Okay, so this is, this property is coming in for title insurance. So this one, is they've looking it over, this company is actually looks like they may be willing to issue title insurance on the property. Yeah, fee simple. So it's pretty standard. There's not any liens or anything against this property. It's essentially looks like just a normal building lot. Okay, so here we go. So there is a judgment on it, though, but that wouldn't necessarily matter in most circumstances. So there's no mortgage, no liens. There is one judgment. We can see that against Jane Doe, for $3,000. No IRS liens, no foreclosures, anything like that. So overall, looks like there's not a ton on this necessarily property, but right now we don't know a ton about it. We just really know it's an has a $8,300 land value. So, the parcel map could probably give us a better indication. But if we can go back and take a look at another property as well. Let's go back and see. Okay. Zone us in.
Something else I would recommend that people do too, that's just a good idea as you're looking at online auctions is, especially if you're looking at places that have consistent online auctions, they're doing them regularly, it's to start paying attention to what's coming up, what ends up redeeming, and what ends up selling, and what the sales price is, because over the course of a couple sales, you can get an idea of what the profit margins are, what tends to happen. For whatever reason, counties tend to follow certain counties tend to be, it's easier to get information from them. Some counties make it a little bit easier to conduct their sales and to buy things from them. As you start to follow those things, you're going to figure out which counties are going to be, the preferred ones to work with and which ones you're comfortable with. And you'll also be able to select those where you'll be most profitable. So you don't end up selecting a county and saying, oh, there's too much competition here, or I wasn't expecting this. So that when the sale does occur, you're going to know pretty much what to expect. It doesn't mean you're going to get every property that you bid on, but you'll have a pretty good idea that if you prepare for 5 or 6 different properties, you've got a pretty good shot at landing one of those. So
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea to keep track of it like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I just pulled up this list. This is for an upcoming sale in California. And, what we usually like to do is to pull up these Excel files. That way we can kind of get the information pretty quickly. So we can see the opening bids amount here. We start at 23. We see that they have address. We can also see these have land and improvements and some pretty good assessed value as well. Now, one thing, as I mentioned, I like about these lists is I can click right here on the link, and it'll go ahead and pull up the list for me or the property for me on the county website. So this property has been withdrawn. So we'll go ahead and just mark that property off if we're interested in this auction because it's no longer available, and would look at this other one for $21,000 that looks like it has some value to it. And that's essentially what would go down and do this list. So here it looks like it could be a condo maybe. Let's pull it up and let's do a little bit more research. So we can see that it has a $21,000 opening bid. We can see it has an improvement value of $125,000, $50,000 land value. It's worth $170,000. Now we can also see down here below, we've got some parcel images we can go ahead and click on. So it does look like it's some type of condo, but it looks pretty clean. Let's look at see some of the other pictures that they have available.
Yeah, I think it said it had an opening bid of about 19,000. Is that right?
I think it was 21.
Oh, 21. Yeah. So for if it is, I mean, if you're looking at a livable condo that's going to start at that kind of a price, I guarantee that's about the cheapest price you'll find in California. As far as an opening bid amount. But it would be interesting. I'm sure that these types of properties are going to have some significant value. The bottom line is everybody needs a place to live, and California is not the cheapest place to live, and so I think the property values tend to be higher than you'd find in other places. So, this condo in some places, like for instance in Florida, maybe it's worth 70,000 or 80,000. In California, it could be worth 170 or 180,000 or more.
Yeah, absolutely. We can do a quick check and see. You're never going to take the Zillow price as gospel, but it's at least going to give you an indication, and you could usually use them to help do the comparables as well. Now, one thing that may be having a problem is with the C, so we might need to see if we can try pulling it up a different way. Okay. So we can see here that
Yeah, it looks
they
like there's
valued.
a couple units that have valued or that they've sold before.
Yeah, they've got 4 units, 208 between 179. Oh, so we can see that one sold for 179 recently, and then we had one off the market at 202 and 215. So right here we can already see the comparables where this property, recently sold at 179, or one similar to it. There was also another one that was on the market for 208. But overall, it gives us a pretty good idea of what this property, and when you have one that's sold within that same area recently, that's going to tell us a lot more about the property as well. But so overall, we're looking at an opening bid or a current bid of $21,000, 500. It probably has a market value of around 200,000, maybe even more than that, maybe 215, 220. But overall, you're looking at a great bid to value ratio. So in looking at that bid amount to the property's value, let's say that this property is valued at 180, and you could sell it for 180. That's going to give you a good indication of how high or how low you're willing to go on any one of the properties as far as the bidding amount.
Yeah, that is one thing that that you do tend to find with a lot of the properties out there is a good bid to value ratio. I think that's because you've got strong property values, but most of the time, if you find an opening bid amount, I would say it tends to be lower in California than it does. The bid to value ratio tends to be lower in California than in a lot of other states.
Yeah. Let's take a look at another auction. This is using realauction.com, and this is Lee County, Florida. So we can see that they don't have a ton of properties. They had an auction yesterday. You can see that these properties sold to the certificate holder. So essentially the certificate holder foreclosed on it and received the properties. Here's one. This property here was bought by a third party. So for whatever reason, the investor saw that there was value in this property, probably some type of building lot. And a lot of times this assessed value is going to be quite a bit lower than the actual market value, because a lot of these Florida counties, really had a high assessed value on a lot of these building lots, and people quit paying it because they were overvaluing the building lot. And so a lot of these building lots have lowered the overall assessed value to make it easier for property owners to pay them, but that doesn't necessarily mean the market value is there. So it looks like this was a lot of land, and sometimes they'll do this where they'll go ahead and sell it, a bunch of the land in one auction, and then offer maybe some of the single-family homes in another one. So let's look at here. Here's a property here. You can see it has a $3,745 opening bid. Has a $37,000 value. Let's go ahead and click on that parcel number. So we can see it's a little single-family home right here. We can see the address right here. What we're going to do is we can, we can click down here and see when it was built and the construction information. See, the roof was put on in 2007, plumbing updated in 2004. And we can go through and look at all this, but what we want to do is just see what the property's valued at. And that'll let us know. But really, whenever you're looking at a single-family home that could possibly be rentable at a under $5,000 opening bid, there's an incredible amount of profit. I mean, there's a huge amount, especially if you're looking at it through a rental. So, this property here estimates about $57,000, and it will rent out for $900 a month. Now, in looking at the property, it does look like it may need a little bit of work and stuff, but if you can rent this property out, put a little bit into it and rent it out for $900 a month. One thing I'm also noticing, when this picture was taken, you can see that they have looks like a big garbage bin right there. And you can see the inside's taken out, and it looks like there's a new door. And so this is where you'd want that current photo of the property, but it looks like to me that it's in the middle of a renovation of some sort. You can see the new wood up here at the top of the photo. You can see that that's brand new wood that's been put up there. You can see that it looks like a brand new door, and then you can see also that in that you look for any type of clue you can about the properties outside to help you tell a little bit more on the inside. Because with tax deeds, you're not going to be able to get a chance to, in most cases, go through the property, and kick the tires, so to speak. You're going to have to see what you can see either through the outsides. You can, through anywhere you can visually see what you can from the outside. You're not going to be able to go into it. So in looking at it, we're going to look for anything to tell us additional information. So in this property, it may be in better condition than this photo shows. That's the reason we'd want to see a current photo on it. And then based on that current photo, that's going to tell you how much you're willing to bid. So if I know this property needs a lot more work, then maybe that $3,000 opening bid, maybe we'll only go to $6,000. But if it's in real good condition, maybe it's such a good property and it has a value of $60,000 or $57,000 that I'm willing to bid up to $15,000 for it, because I know that there's an incredible amount of value in it. Here's another property with a $2,000 opening bid, has a $45,000 assessed value. We'll go ahead and click on that one too. Looks like a pretty good property. Let's see. Okay, so we see it's another little single-family home. Let's see what Zillow thinks of it.
It really is pretty amazing that you can find homes like this for such a low price. I mean, I guarantee that you won't find homes priced, like this anywhere else, using any other kind of strategy except for tax sales, because any other time you've got people that are involved in the process that have personal interest in it, they don't want to let it go. But here it is, these homes, and think about it, with the price you're getting these homes at, what they're opening up at. Uh, you know, it's not important if they're perfect or not because of the profit margins that you're looking at. It's kind of like somebody offering to sell you a Ferrari for $1,000. Just with the fact that it's a Ferrari, $1,000, it would be pretty difficult to complain about the fact that it needed new tires or that it had a ding somewhere or something like that because of the kind of price you're paying for it. Same concept with these homes. If you're able to pick these up possibly for as little as 10 cents on the dollar, 15 cents on the dollar, that's enough of a discount to warrant, letting things go. It's not, I guess you don't really have to worry about the small things because you're not paying full price. If you're paying full price, then all the little things would be important, and getting that price down exactly would be really important. But if you're paying just a small fraction of what it's worth, it's easy to let some of those things go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a great point. This property has an estimate of 109. Now, I would think that that's a little bit high, but doing comparables, you can see some more expensive homes, and we're looking at a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, 1,700 square feet. Could rent out for $1,150, $1,200 a month. And so, looking at this property, obviously the yard tells us something about it, but overall the structure of the property doesn't look that bad. Of course, we'd want a current photo and everything, and it looks like the yard needs taken care of, but overall the structure on the outside looks like, when you're talking about a $2,000 opening bid amount, looks like a pretty good investment, something that would do some
It,
additional.
it was probably kept up until as little as 5 years ago, and just looking at it, the roof is not bad. It was painted, up until, I mean, it's not a house that has sat that long in disrepair. If it's anything close to what the pictures, in this image are, then it hasn't. I mean, that was December of 2015, so that would have to be less than a year old, that image. I
Yeah,
would say that it's probably in fair condition just based on what we can see there.
yeah. And I'm just interested in this particular property. It almost kind of reminds me of somebody's grandma's home, like a grandmother home or something like that. You can
Hmm.
see that it has, I can't tell if those are rose bushes or some type of bushes up in the front. But that's one thing you could look at is the owner history, and it'll tell you a little bit more about the property. We could look at through the sales transactions, and that could tell us a little bit more about it as well. We can see it was purchased back in 2008 for 90,000, 1999 for 100. And if we want to, we could go ahead and click on the record to pull up additional information from it. But overall, you're looking at a pretty great investment when we're talking about a $2,000 opening bid. Let's continue to scroll down the list. What we're doing is we're just scanning that opening bid amount versus the assessed value. Let's take one more look at this auction, and then we'll probably call it here. But so you can see that these are a lot of building lots. And one thing with these lower price building lots, sometimes you can find one for $1,000 to $2,000 in this lower amount that actually have a higher assessed value. And so that's one thing you can look at. If they're on the same area, then that value is probably pretty close if you determine it. But sometimes there'll be some in a different area. And I've seen some of these building lots that have, quite a lot higher value than the assessed value. The property across the street is selling for quite a bit more. So it looks like those are some land properties as well. But you can see that the tax sales do not take off time for Christmas or for the holidays. You can see that they have them going all the way up through the 27th, and that's part of the reason that we've put together this boot camp before that time, is to really help investors that want to get started before the new year, or that want to take advantage of some of the auctions over the next few months. And you can see that there's going to be continually auctions, and a lot of times that's when you can get some of the best deals, because the competition may not be as fierce right now. Everyone else is thinking about other things, and so you can see that there's 30 properties coming up on the 20th. 15th on the 27th, 33 on the 13th, 40th on the 6th. So essentially, when we go to when we have the training on the 9th, 10th, and 11th, we'll be preparing for these different auctions with the investors that are there at the event. Do you have
Excellent. No,
anything to add, Shay?
I don't think so. Other than we've been doing a lot of work here, prepping here for that upcoming workshop boot camp. So if anybody has any questions about it, let us know. Because we'll have a lot of things coming together with it over the next week or so. But I think it should be a good opportunity. It's definitely what we're spending the most time on right now. So. We're looking forward to it. And if anybody needs anything at all, please let us know. We still see emails pretty fast.
Yeah. You can find all different types of property through tax sales. Here looks like some type of commercial. See, commercial park. It's a warehouse. Commercial warehouse is big right now. As far as renting out commercial warehouse space, that is just top dollar right now. And so, here's a commercial warehouse. You can just find so many different things at tax sales. So if you have any interest, let us know. We're so glad that you're a member. Things are gonna, as we've talked about, we're adding different things to the website, and we're just excited that you're here with us.
Yeah, thanks everybody. We'll plan on seeing everybody soon.
Have a good night.